Welcome to Lochhead on Marketing, where we're trying the world's first Marketing PodStorm. 30 days of strategies and ideas to help you create the future of your choosing. Hey ho, let's go. Well, thanks for pressing play and welcome to our very first of our 30-day Marketing PodStorm. We want to share strategies and ideas with you to help you create the future that you want. Now, you've probably heard of a tweet storm where somebody has a bunch to say and they just tweet it all out on Twitter. This is the podcast version. Think of it as a 30-day rant of unpredictable, sometimes counterintuitive ideas that we hope spark thinking, dialogue, and action in your business that makes a gigantic difference. Now, if by chance we haven't met before, my name is Christopher Lochhead. I'm a former 3-time public company CMO. I've written a couple of books, Play Bigger and Niche Down. I've been an advisor to over 50 venture-backed Silicon Valley startups. And I have 2 top-performing podcasts, this being one of them. Most importantly, I have sat in the chair for some pretty big crisis as a CMO. And even more importantly, I have some very smart friends who are helping me think about this downturn. And so we wanted to share 30 ideas over 30 days to make the biggest difference in your legendary marketing. On this episode, let's talk about what's actually possible. What does the data tell us about recessions and what's actually possible to get done here? Now, let me say something crazy. It is possible to emerge from a downturn, and even this downturn, stronger. Now, let me read to you a quote from, the OG of OGs, Peter Drucker. Quote, "The entrepreneur always searches for change, responds to it, and exploits it as an opportunity." And I don't know about you, but I'm beginning to think that C19 might be the biggest change that we've ever seen. And some things are obvious about how the future is going to change, and some things are a lot less obvious. But there's a whole lot of change coming. And look, I also want you to know, I know this is hard. For many of us in business, this is the hardest thing we've ever had to deal with. And of course, that doesn't take into account the massive, horrible, soul-crushing loss of life and, the health sort of challenge, to put it mildly, that many of us have gone through. But here's what I know from a business perspective. The legendary leaders I know do look for opportunity, and even ones whose businesses have completely collapsed. So let me start there by telling you about a friend of mine named Clint Carnell. He's the CEO of a company called HydraFacial. We recently dropped an episode of my other podcast, Follow Your Different, with him. It's episode number 160. I highly recommend it. Here's what happened to Clint. HydraFacial is a highly successful category queen business. They created this whole new approach that is sort of part medical procedure and part spa feel-good procedure that cleans up your face and makes you look awesome and feel awesome. That's probably an oversimplification, but that's what it is. And they've been on a growth tear. 2019 was their best year, and 2020 was going to be an even better year than that. And then C19 hit, and their entire market category, through no fault of their own, literally gets shut down. They go from their best year ever to no revenue. So what do? Rather than collapsing, they ask themselves, what can we do? And they take an approach that Eddie Yoon and I have been calling radically generous and thoughtfully aggressive. And they, in a matter of weeks, stand up 3 new businesses. Number one, they find out that in their local community, help is required with call centers for the community, for people who have questions. Do I have C19? I'm having these symptoms. I'm pregnant and I think I might have it. What do I do? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And there's a local call for help. Well, HydraFacial has an inside team, some of whom do sales, some of whom do support, inside CRM type folks, and they get retrained. And now some of them are taking up to 100 calls a day, helping people with their personal questions about C19. So that's the first thing they do. The second thing they do is they find out that a local business who makes ventilators, who's a smaller company, needs help and they need to scale up and they need resources. So HydraFacial partners with them. And before you know it, they are in the ventilator business. And then the third new line they start is a whole new category of masks. If you know anything about masks, you know they're uncomfortable, and if you have to wear them all day, they can leave marks on your face, and they're not reusable. So they turn into garbage very quickly. So the HydraFacial folks find again another smaller company who's been doing some pioneering work, and together they create the world's first reusable, insanely comfortable cotton mask that is, and this is how they describe it, impregnated with copper. And the natural sort of components of copper mean that this mask is a very powerful deterrent for the virus. And so, in a matter of weeks, HydraFacial, with their business being, as Clint calls it, completely ambushed, stands up 3 new lines of business. And they've actually now, as the economy is starting to open up a little bit in some parts of the world, because they're a global company, HydraFacials are starting. And so, as a result of doing these things, not only did they save the company in the short term, not only did they provide a set of products and services that can make a difference during C19, I would argue they've even positioned themselves for strength over time, because it could turn out this mask category they're designing could be a very important new category. That's why I love the entrepreneurial spirit. That's why I love innovation. That's why I love when it doesn't matter how badly the shit hits the fan, people stand up and keep moving forward. Now, what does that have to do with your business? If you do the research on downturns, here's what you'll find. A recent article in HBR by Walter Flick sort of summarizes a lot of the thinking that's gone on around recessions and a lot of the research that's been done by the top consulting firms. And in his article, he talks about the recessions of the 80s, the 90s, and the 2000s, and some of the research that was done. And they find, for example, 17% of public companies fared particularly badly. They went bankrupt, they went private, or were acquired. However, just as strikingly, 9% of companies didn't simply recover in the 3 years after a recession, they flourished. He goes on to say those companies outperformed by competitors by at least 10% in sales and profits. He goes on to say a more recent analysis by Bain using data from the Great Recession reinforced that finding. The top 10% of companies in Bain's analysis saw their earnings climb steadily throughout the period and continued to rise afterward. And a third study by McKinsey found similar results. So what am I telling you? The smartest minds in business have gone out and done data science research, and they tell us 10% of companies get stronger as a result of recessions. And we'll have a click through in the show notes to these articles if you want to go read them. And by the way, if you don't subscribe to the HBR, what are you doing? All right. So what does this mean? I think the first thing to consider, make the commitment to be in that top 10%. Even if things look dark in your business, HydraFacial's business was done, was shut down. They could not legally function, and yet they found a way forward, and they found a way forward in a very positive way. So make the commitment to be in the top 10%. Now, what do we know when we set what Jim Collins, who wrote Good to Great and Built to Last, calls a big, hairy, audacious goal, or a BHAG? One of the most powerful things you can do is declare that BHAG publicly. So tell your people, This is our aspiration. We want to make it to the top 10%. Tell your partners, your investors, your customers, if you have an ecosystem, be declarative. We are going to work our hoo-hoo off to exit this downturn stronger than we came into it. And we want to be in the top 10% because we know that when you set a goal like that, things start to happen. In that regard, I would encourage you to get your people together and ask them, if we were smart and we were us, how do we use this downturn to get stronger? And how do we get into that top 10%? Now, one thing that we've learned over the last few weeks is that now is a good time to get rid of waste. And if you have a hairball of multiple software systems, why not think about streamlining into one powerful integrated suite to run your business? That's where my friends at NetSuite by Oracle come in. As a matter of fact, they're number one in cloud ERP around the world, which includes finance, HR, inventory, e-commerce, and everything you need to run your business in one place, saving you time, money, and hairball headaches. I would encourage you to visit netsuite.com/different. And while you're there, you'll be able to pick up a copy of the new playbook called 7 Actions Businesses Need to Take Now, and schedule a free NetSuite product tour. So visit netsuite.com/different, pick up 7 actions businesses need to take now, and get your free product tour. In a crisis, what's becoming very clear is data matters. As a matter of fact, legendary organizations turn data into doing in a crisis. And that's where my friends at Splunk, SPLUNK, come in. They are the category queens and kings of data to everything, bringing data to every question, every decision, and every action. Visit SPLUNK.com/D, the number 2 and the letter E today, and learn how you can turn data into doing. And I'd also encourage you to go to Lochhead.com and sign up for our newsletter, The Difference. It's free. We'll never sell your email address to anybody. And we are working hard to email out some legendary stuff. So go to Lochhead.com and subscribe to The Difference. All right. We would like to thank the good folks at Atranet. If you're in the B2B space in Silicon Valley and you need a website, visit atre.net. Imagine being able to talk or text any HR related question to your phone and get an answer. That's employee awesome. And that's my friends at Socrates, SOCRATES.ai. Check them out. Employees have a lot of questions these days, and Socrates can help. If you're looking at trying to design and dominate your own market category, visit my friends at categorydesignadvisors.com. All right. I want to thank you so much for your time and attention, for tuning in for episode 1. Tune in tomorrow for episode 2. Stay healthy, stay legendary, and until we're together again, follow your different.